Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our 353rd weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is an AMA like you see on Reddit. You can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions. You can ask me career questions, investing questions, etc. Ask me anything you want. And my humble goal is to help you take your career to the next level, help you become a better investor, help you with personal growth, etc. So without further ado, let's begin, and thank you. Okay, so first I've got here, Moss, how are you? Good to see you. Manas, good to see you as well. Do you think the Strait of Hormuz attack on the oil ship cargo will jack up insurance prices for countries and refiners? Also, Iran is a part of the BRICS now, by the way. Yeah, I don't think officially they are part of the BRICS. For those who are not familiar with BRICS, it's something that Jan Hatzius came up with, who works at Goldman Sachs. I used to work with him years ago. Stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa. Insurance prices are going up a lot, absolutely. Now, what's interesting about the insurance sector is that whenever you have a natural disaster like hurricanes, etc., it's actually positive for insurance companies. And the reason is because a lot of people start signing up for policies at this point. But we certainly live in interesting times. Iran is now talking about sending oil prices up to $200. I think we can get to $150 quite easily. Now, a lot of countries have released a record amount of global strategic reserves of oil to mitigate the increase in prices. But I still think we're going to 150. And that's not a far fetch either, because during the summer of 2008, a lot of people forget that the price of oil went up to 150, and we didn't have these geopolitical shocks either. Yeah. Okay, next question is from Javesh, who wrote, what financial actions are most important during a recession? Should individuals prioritize eliminating credit card debt or conserving cash? Yeah, so I would say cash is king always. First thing you always pay off is credit card debt because interest rates are close to 20%. But you want to have 6 to 12 months worth of cash available or in low risk investments, just in case, God forbid, you lose your job, etc. Now, one of the safest things to invest in is gold, ticker GLD. It's what I buy. And usually you see a flight to quality when this happens. Okay, so people will start putting money in lower risk assets like gold, as well as value-based investments. Think of what Berkshire Hathaway owns. The reason is because beta is a lot lower on those stocks and they don't get crushed as easily. Regardless of what investments you have, I always humbly recommend to never have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in any one particular stock. Yeah. I certainly wouldn't panic though, by any means. You got to think long term. As Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. So think about that. Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second just to do a quick quality check here. Okay, great. Let me move on now to the next question. Okay, great. All right. Where do you think the Iran war is heading? And what are the best and worst case outcomes? Best case is, as President Trump talks about, this is an incursion and not a war, to the extent that it ends within a couple of weeks. I don't think that will happen, unfortunately. Worst case, I would say, is it's a prolonged military operation that lasts 6 to 12 months. The issue is that Iran, and you all see the same media reports I see, has countless thousands of drones underground. God willing that this ends quickly, but it doesn't look good at this point. Yeah. Okay, next question is, do you think this will be Iraq 2.0 because Iran is much bigger and tougher to conquer on boots and way too equipped with long-term? Your thoughts? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that bad as it was with Iraq. In terms of a ground invasion, we could have boots on the ground. I don't think it's going to be as serious. I don't think the American people will let it be as serious as the Iraq war was. Iran is much, much bigger, though. It's the size of like California and Texas put together. And they have a lot more weapons than I think even the United States realized at this point underground. So God willing, I pray for peace. Okay. All right. So please continue to type your questions on anything you want. But let's talk a little bit about the Federal Reserve. Okay. So the Federal Reserve might not cut rates now. And everybody thought entering this year, with the new appointment of Federal Reserve Chairman, as appointed by Trump, that we would have 2, maybe 3 or more rate cuts this year. But given the fact that oil prices are jumping materially to the extent that the price of gas in the United States is up 20% on average, it doesn't look like we're going to have interest rate cuts. Okay, so that's a pretty serious issue. I know inflation numbers came out the other day for the month of February, and they weren't that bad, up 2.6% year over year, more or less in line with expectations. But it's the month of March we have to worry about for obvious reasons, given the higher price of oil. And so, for example, Goldman Sachs now thinks the first rate cut, if it comes at all, is going to be this September because inflation risks remain elevated, again, due to political tensions and energy prices. And this matters a lot because higher interest rates means that mortgages stay expensive, startup funding stays tight. Like, who the heck wants to invest in venture capital startups if rates rise a lot? And tech valuations will face pressure. And also, private equity deals will become much, much harder to finance. Yeah. So in other words, the entire financial system is still adjusting to a world where money is not free anymore. And so here's the question for all of you watching. Do you think the Fed will actually cut rates this year, or will inflation surprise us again? Okay, let's move on now to the next question. Ted, good to see you. Blessings to you as well. And then Darling Jesus 5805 wrote, "Hi, Chris, I'm Joshua. Great to see you on the call. I hope you join us again. First time I've seen you. What do you think about market research analyst as a career path in this day?" So anything where you're actually creating a product, I think is a good career path. Now, a lot of people, what they do in finance is they start their career in investment banking. And that's a smart decision, and here's why. Because you're originating the product. You're making the product. Just like with market research, you're making the product. If you hate originating the product, like bankers do with IPOs and M&A, if you hate originating it, that's okay. Because now that you know how to make the product, you can move on to sell the product or trade the product or start a company or do operations about the product itself. So if anybody is confused career-wise, I would say that an origination type job initially makes a lot of sense. The one thing I'd be careful about when it comes to market research is, as we all know, AI is taking a lot of share away. So what that means is you need fewer analysts to do the same job. Now, if you want to be a research analyst working for a portfolio manager at a hedge fund or at a mutual fund, please be aware that portfolio managers are going to be hiring fewer analysts to cover more companies. And so the bottom line is I want you all to work smarter and harder when it comes to leveraging AI. Now, I have a lot of clients. I have 2 million paying customers in every single country. And I would say that many of my clients that work in the tech sector are terrified. They're terrified because of what Jensen Huang said last year. Jensen Huang's the brilliant founder and CEO of NVIDIA. And what he said was that the worst thing you can study in university right now is computer science. And the reason is because AI is the quintessential tool created to eliminate that role. So what should you do then career-wise? Well, if you do anything repetitive, try to disintermediate or disrupt yourself before the market does, okay, operations-wise. But I think the best job to go for right now is sales. And the reason I say that is because we don't trust AI. We trust people. And so you want to be a quota-carrying sales rep if you can. And the best entrepreneurs in the world, and all CEOs, are great salespeople. And if you could pick a single career, and if you put me on the spot for that, I would say private wealth management. And the reason I say that is because it's very sad, but in the next couple decades, we're going to see the biggest generational transfer of wealth in history as the baby boomers move on. And private wealth management is a job where you're kind of like a stockbroker, but for very rich people. And it's one of the only jobs in finance where you can work at a big investment bank like a Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, etc., and take your clients with you, after a year or two there. Yeah. And the way that the market works for private wealth management is you get basically a 1% fee on the assets you manage. So if you manage $100 million, you make about $1 million in fees per year. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Ted wrote, "I'm guessing you think oil prices will stay elevated for weeks or months, right? Nobody can predict the near-term future, but my gut is yes, unless miraculously we fix this whole Strait of Hormuz issue. Now, in the past couple of days, the United States Army has bombed 16 ships that plant mines in the Strait of Hormuz. And you see the same news I do. A bunch of tankers are still getting bombed by Iran. But if we fix that shortly, then I think things could start to improve. But I think it'll get worse before it gets better. Yeah. And it's my humble opinion that I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I got to throw this out there. The fact that the markets are not pulling back is not just because a lot of people think that this war is going to be over sooner rather than later. But I think there are sometimes government slush funds that get involved as well to stabilize things. That's just my humble opinion. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question is from Azen, who wrote, I'm in high school and I'm going to get an intern in a local trading prop firm. How should I network with people there? Yeah. So what you can always do is step one, just go to my website. And I'll give you a free book you can download. Your network is your net worth, and relationships are always more important than product knowledge. So instead of me, actually, I'll show you. Just go directly to my website, which is harounventures.com. Scroll to the bottom and download this book for free. And basically what the book talks about, and what I recommend that you all do, is step one, make an incredible LinkedIn profile. Step two, set up tons of networking meetings with people that have something in common with you, that work in companies you want to work in. Now, when you reach out to people, I don't want you to say, I want a job. All I want you to do is keep it simple and say something like this. John, hope all is well. I go to the same high school you went to. Please let me know if you have time for a quick Zoom call. I'd love to ask you about the finance industry. Thanks. That's it. And they're going to say yes. You might think, Chris, that's cray. Why would anybody say yes? Well, think about it this way, okay? It's 20 years in the future, and you're way more successful than you already are today. And somebody 20 years younger than you that really reminds you of yourself reaches out to you and asks for advice. Would you say yes? Of course you would. Now, don't forget, during that meeting, don't forget to ask for a job. Ask to do a free internship. If they have money, they'll pay you anyway. Remember that closed mouths don't get fed. Ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Okay, next question I've got here is from Ted. Ted wrote, what effect will AI have on SaaS stocks, software as a service stocks? Yeah, so earlier this year, I think it was last month, the founder of Anthropic very selfishly said that AI is going to destroy software companies. And what he was doing, and I say selfishly, because he was trying to get free PR. And he's getting free PR because Anthropic's going to do a monster IPO later this year. Okay? And so he was trying to be very controversial, kind of like Elon Musk when he gets PR for Tesla. And you've never seen a Tesla commercial because Elon uses the media. But what he said, the Anthropic CEO, was that AI is going to destroy all software companies, basically. And I think that's a little bit exaggerated. Now, Oracle posted stellar results the other day. The stock was up, close to 10% yesterday. I think that market is massively oversold. So whenever you see comments that causes a sector to go down materially to the extent that the RSI, meaning relative strength index, hits 20 or 30, roll up your sleeves, do the research, and buy after you come up with your target price, etc. Yeah. And the best way to do investment research is always to write your own investment research reports. And I'll show it to you right here. Give me 1 second. So I've got a couple of templates that my clients use. One of them is a 100-step investment research template where you answer questions about the company from a qualitative perspective, quantitative, and financial perspective. You build your financial model, and out of that, you get an executive summary. This is dummy data here, and a detailed report. Always do your own research, please. Yeah, don't rely on me. Don't rely on the media. And don't rely on smart people to tell you what to do. Otherwise, what's going to happen, and when I say smart people, I mean people that speak gooder than us. Otherwise, what's going to happen is a disaster, which is you listen to other people on TV to tell you what stocks to buy, and then you freak out when they go down. And remember that Warren Buffett says that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where people sell stuff and it goes on sale. The longer the view, the wiser the intention. Okay. All right. Good morning, Kevin. Good to see you. Aizen wrote, what stocks are you looking at during this time? Yeah. So I don't get phased by volatility in the market. I always look long term. Okay. I buy my favorite stocks that I think are going to be more relevant in 5 years. And so whenever you do investment research on companies, always start by asking yourself this simple question. In 5 years, will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? Then you do your investment research commensurate with that 100-step approach I showed you a second ago. And then you decide what the company is going to be worth in 5 to 10 years. Think long term. Otherwise, what happens is this, and we've all fell a victim to this, where you see crazy volatility in a stock. You sell because it's going down, and then longer term, it's up here. So I want you to tell yourself this. I'm going to oversimplify this. I don't care about the path. I care about the destination. Yeah. And what you could even do is you could even think about, well, what companies are never going to go bankrupt? Meaning what companies are too big to fail? Well, banks, some of the large tech companies for strategic reasons, as well as the defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, etc. Yeah. But I'll let you do the research on that. Okay. What are your thoughts about JPMorgan caught for spoofing silver and gold markets? Nothing has definitively been proved yet, but any stock manipulation is against the law. So be careful for everybody in the Reddit crowd, and they inspire me so much. Like what happened with GameStop was cool back in January of 2021 when the price of GameStop, ticker GME, went up 29.4 times. That's against the law. Like if a bunch of you get together and push a stock up, just be careful. Market manipulation is against the law. Next question is, what do you think about regulation on AI? I think it's badly needed. Look, I'm a capitalist. I believe in the free market. But I think what's going to happen with AI is going to be so incredibly disruptive to so many white-collar jobs. Something has to be done. And we need to keep it in check as well. And things are changing so fast. Even with robotics. Like, it's kind of scary. But what Elon Musk is doing, this is unbelievable. He basically scrapped the iconic Model S. And instead of that, he's retooling all of his factories, including out here in Fremont, in order to make robots. Right? So the impact on society is going to be dramatic. And I wouldn't mind seeing that slowed down or kept in check a bit. Now, every big company, and I do a lot of corporate consulting for big companies where I present it to all employees of Workday, Dell, Marvell, etc. They all now have a chief AI ethics officer, okay? And I think governments are going to have that as well. So I really do think that AI needs to be kept in check. Yeah, things are moving too quickly. And what's going to happen later this year is these companies are going to get a lot more capital to move even faster. What I mean by that is SpaceX is going public, okay? And of course, they own the AI assets of Elon Musk companies, okay? And that's going to make Elon the first trillionaire. You've also got OpenAI going public, the parent company of ChatGPT, and Anthropic, which I talked about a couple of minutes ago. Now, armed with that new war chest of capital, I think we're going to see an acceleration of the impact that AI is going to have from a disruptive nature on white-collar and blue-collar jobs eventually as well. Okay. All right, Leigh, good morning. How are you? Next question is, how is your experience working for a hedge fund? I work for several hedge funds. So what I did was I worked at Goldman Sachs for 5 years. I left in 2003, and I went to a firm called Kingdon Capital, which is the oldest hedge fund on the planet at that point in time in New York City. And then a big hedge fund called Citadel recruited me here to the West Coast more than 20 years ago. Then what I did was I worked at Pequot, which is the largest tech hedge fund on the planet. Then I got my green card in 07, started my own hedge fund and venture capital firm as well. Yeah. So I would say that it's extraordinarily stressful. Okay, but it's rewarding as well. Like I humbly did okay. Now, you can make a lot of money, but the problem is you're very short-term focused. Now, the best performing hedge funds on the planet are the ones that are longer-term focused, meaning they make 3-year bets. Okay, yeah, they trade around positions a lot. So if you want to work at a hedge fund, I would work at what's called a tiger cub. Let me explain that. So Julian Robertson, God bless me, passed away a couple of years ago. Julian Robertson started a great hedge fund called Tiger in New York City back in the early 80s. And he was longer-term focused, okay? Fundamental, bottoms up, okay, 3-year bets. And what happened was out of Tiger came a lot of tiger cubs. And tiger cubs means portfolio managers that work there that started their own firms, like Chase Coleman, who runs Tiger Global, or Viking, Maverick, and there's plenty of others. So if you're going to work in the hedge fund industry, I recommend working at a tiger cub. Yeah. And what I found with the hedge fund industry is that it is short-term focused. Again, if you have 3-year bets, you can do well. But I wanted to be a longer-term investor, which is why I morphed my hedge fund into a venture capital fund. I invested in Facebook and Palantir pre-IPO as well. Again, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah. And the trick is with all this stuff, it doesn't matter what industry you go into. If you want to make a lot of money, you have to use OPM, meaning other people's money. It's just the way it works. Yeah. And the hedge fund industry is similar to the venture capital industry and private equity industry in that you charge 2 and 20. And what that means is this. You charge a 2% annual fee, management fee on the money you manage. And the big money comes from the 20%, meaning the incentive fee. And what that means is, let's say you manage $1 billion and the fund goes up 100%. So you make $1 billion. You keep 20% of that, meaning $200 million. Now, if you work at a big hedge fund, you get about half of that, right? So you get about, if you make the firm $1 billion and the firm keeps 20% of that, meaning $200 million. If you make half that money, the $200 million, you get a $100 million bonus for the portfolio manager and the team. Yeah. Okay. All right. But what a lot of people don't understand about the hedge fund industry is that it's not all about making money, because rich people, meaning accredited investors that invest in hedge funds, what they're focused on primarily is capital preservation and then capital appreciation. And Warren Buffett, who doesn't manage a hedge fund, but Warren Buffett once said the 2 most important rules of investing are, number 1, don't lose money, and number 2, don't forget rule number 1. And so capital preservation is key. Yeah. All right. Okay, next up, Ted wrote, speaking of too big to fail, do you think that Bitcoin is now too big to fail? It's been accepted by so many institutions, is unlikely to crash further. No, I think the crypto market could go away. Yeah, it would hurt a lot of people's personal investments, but I don't think it's going to have an impact. Governments don't rely on it. Neither do big banks for the most part. Yeah. And I've been saying this for more than a decade now when it comes to crypto investing. 99%, or most of them at least, are a scam. Okay? And don't put more than 5% of your liquid net worth in cryptos. Okay? And the reason why a lot of them are a scam is because, unlike with regulated markets, meaning stocks, governments don't force them to create investment offering memorandums. So you don't know what the risks are. So yeah, I own a ton of Bitcoin. I don't care if it goes to $40,000 next year, and I don't care if it goes to $200,000 next year. I know, and I think it's going to $1 million in about 20 years. I don't care about the path. I care about the destination. But never have more than 5%, ever. Because Jamie Dimon, he's a smart guy. His firm makes a lot of money off cryptocurrencies. But Jamie Dimon, has been kind of bearish on Bitcoin and cryptos in general. I disagree with him, but his logic is this. How do we know that the maximum number of Bitcoin that's ever going to be produced by the year 2140 is actually 21 million Bitcoin? How do we know? We don't. It's not regulated by governments. It's regulated by the laws of mathematics. If that. That's why you can't have more than 5% of your net worth in cryptos, period. Yeah. And I disclosed many years ago the cryptos I own. Do your research first. The cryptos I own include Bitcoin, which is most of my portfolio in cryptos, as well as 3 others: Ethereum, Litecoin, and Ripple. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on MSTR Microstrategy? Yeah. So I think it's incredibly irresponsible of Saylor, the CEO and founder, to turn a business intelligence analytics software company into a Bitcoin holding company. Yeah. And I used to call MSTR Microtragedy. When I worked in the hedge fund industry, I shorted the stock a lot for accounting reasons, etc. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of that business model. You want to invest in Bitcoin, You don't buy Microstrategy, you buy Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay. It's style drift. Yeah. Okay. Nassim wrote, what new stuff are you planning to add to your next MBA intake, Chris? Great content as always. No, thank you. Yeah, I'm always adding stuff, And so the way my program works, it's a little bit different from what you've heard about in the past. I've transitioned my business model into the following. I'll show it to you very quickly. Okay, there's a great sense of community. So what I have, and if you're interested, just, I don't know, set up a call with my team. There's probably a link in the description here. You can go to my website. But the way it works is you get access to 700 hours of my award-winning content. And so I've added a lot of new stuff on how to interview for finance stuff, real estate, tons of AI stuff as well. And the way this works is there is an iPhone app and an Android app as well. Okay, you get lifetime access to all this stuff. In addition to courses, I have tons of events. I do 7 hours per week of daily small group Zoom coaching calls. Okay, that's every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 7 hours a week, 300 hours per year. What you also get access to is you get access to one-on-ones with me. And more importantly, you get access to members. So in this cohort here, I've got 173 members. And everybody helps each other. I don't let anybody in that's not cool. And that's not a sales thing. It's just, you know what I mean? Like one bad apple destroys a whole darn bunch. Everybody introduces themselves. Everybody shares wins, etc. Yeah. So anyway, that's my business model. Yeah. And if you have more questions, let me know, please. But I want to make this focus about answering questions for all of you. Okay. Okay. And thank you for that question, Nassim. Yeah. Aizen wrote, what do you think about quant finance? Yeah. I think it's very, very hard. There's only a handful of hedge funds that have figured out how to make an extraordinary amount of money by leveraging AI and quantitative finance. And the best example for you to look at is a company called Renaissance Technologies. It was founded in the early 1980s, 1983, I believe, by Jim Simmons, the late, great Jim Simmons. He worked at the NSA. He's a mathematician. And it's a quant-based hedge fund that has had insane returns. I think the average return is north of 50% on average every year since the early 80s. And it's a machine learning or AI-based hedge fund. And nobody knows what's in the thousands of Linux servers that are running in parallel that pick stocks. Okay, it's closely guarded for obvious reasons. And I'm going to give you a really silly example of what could be in it. So a bunch of inputs are fed in, and then it picks stocks. So a silly example could be, if it's raining a lot, then short restaurant stocks, because people don't go out to eat as much when it's raining. Yeah. And if you want to learn more about it, you can always go to rentech.com, I think is the website. They have 90 PhDs. They hire mathematicians, not finance people. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Aizen wrote, industry is coming out. Yeah, I'm not sure how you heard about that, but I just made a vlog on it. It's going to hit my YouTube channel in a couple of days, and I'll teach you about the investment banking job function, as well as sales and trading. And the name of the firm is Pierpoint Capital. Yeah, so that'll be out soon. Yeah, and let me know what movies or TV shows you guys want me to make reaction videos to. I did Margin Call and most of the big finance movies. It's a fun new way for me to teach. Yeah. Okay. Do you think the U.S. might nuke Iran? No, I don't think we're going there. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Okay. All right. Raspier wrote, Dear Chris, can you please provide your opinion on the world reserve currency change? Why and how will it happen in your opinion? Yeah. So I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. So this is the world's reserve currency. Okay. It's US dollar. Okay. And the way you'll know when it's changing is when investment bankers in all major economies, when they start discounting the future value of cash flows, they start using other currencies other than the US. Like for years, people use LIBOR, London Interbank Offer Rate. But for decades, they've used this. Yeah. And everything is relative in investing in currencies, okay? So I humbly think, the very last company on the planet to ever go bankrupt will be the US government, okay? And all major economies invest in US dollars, okay? They buy US treasuries. And I can give you a primer on how treasuries works, the bond market, et cetera, how interest rates are changing. If you want, you're the customer, let me know, please. But I think that the last currency or the last company to ever go belly up would be the US government. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And if there were some pressures to have oil not denominated in dollars, I think that pressure is off the table for obvious reasons now. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Next question is, you said amazing thing today about PE having tough time, like private equity. Yeah. Does this mean Blackrock and Blackstone would have a tough time stock-wise, especially later on, if one owns too much real estate in New York? Yeah. If interest rates go up, all bets are off. It's terrible for all major asset classes. And let me paint a grim picture. And I'm more of an optimist, okay? But if you go back to 1980. Okay, so you had, Khomeini and the revolution in Iran back in 1979. Okay, these terrible, brutal fucking dictators. But back then, the price of oil went up a lot. Okay, and as a result, interest rates in the United States, okay, and mortgage rates were getting close to 20%. Unemployment was way worse then, at close to 10%. And when interest rates are high, and let me be extreme and make something up here just to prove a point. So in the early 80s, when interest rates were close to 20%, if you can get close to 20% by keeping your money in the bank, of course you're going to keep your money in the bank. And of course you're not going to buy stocks. And of course you're not going to invest in startups. In fact, hardly any cool companies were founded in the early 80s. We had to wait until 1986 until Oracle and Microsoft went public. And Apple, I think, right before that as well. So when interest rates are high, everybody keeps their money in the bank where they buy bonds, right, which is low risk. And nobody, and relatively speaking, invests in private equity, venture capital, the stock market, etc. Yeah. I don't think we're going there, though. Yes, oil prices are high. I get it. And yes, it is inflationary. But this is all temporary. I think the war will be over within a few months. I do. And I think oil prices will eventually come down. Also, what's different this time, and I got to be careful because Sir John Templeton said the four most dangerous words in finance are this time it's different. But what's different now is that we have cloud computing, right? And we have price discovery. And what that means is prices are low globally now because there's more competition out there. Yeah. Okay, next question is, will you still not be concerned if U.S. debt rose to $200 trillion around 60 years or so when I will be 83 years old? I mean, everything within reason, of course. But my thought process is this. There's $96 trillion worth of all major currencies out there. And that's an increase from $90 trillion during COVID. Okay? So this is a loser investment. I think that the amount of money supply is going to increase by about 5% per year over the next 20 years. And the future of the value of that means $250 trillion in money out there in 20 years. And right now, about 3% of the $96 trillion in cash out there, 3% is in cryptos. I think 10% of the $250 trillion in 20 years will be in Bitcoin, which justifies my $1 million Bitcoin target in 20 years. I don't know the path, but I think I know the destination. Yeah. Okay. What is your version of risk in the stock market? Yeah, I would say I would say irresponsible risk management is having all of your eggs in one basket, meaning having only a handful of stocks in your portfolio. I recommend, at least if you're going to buy stocks, not ETFs, I recommend owning at least 20 stocks, and no stock is allowed to be more than 5% of your portfolio. I also recommend not having more than 20% of your portfolio exposed to a certain sector, like tech, healthcare, retail, financial services, industrials, etc. And if you're overseas, meaning outside the United States, I recommend being careful not to have too much US dollar denominated assets. You want to diversify. Yeah. And only invest in very liquid stocks. And never buy more than 10% of the average daily trading volume of a single stock. Otherwise, what happens is illiquid stocks own you in a down market instead of vice versa. And think long term always, please. Yeah. Okay. Do you think Ethereum is losing its shine because Solana, a similar platform-based blockchain, is doing way too well with ICOs, lower fees, and faster speed? And also Solana has limited tokens too. Yeah. Anytime you have a newer cryptocurrency created, it's usually quite often because it does something faster, cheaper, better. But I think Ethereum has first mover advantage, and more ICOs occur on the Ethereum platform, and also NFTs. I know NFTs sounds like a joke and nobody has used that term for years, but I think that's a market that's going to matter in the long run, especially when it comes to baseball cards. Yeah. Okay. And the problem with Ethereum, which I own, the problem with Ethereum is that there's no limit on supply, unlike Bitcoin where there is a limit on supply. And when you look at asset classes in general, you want to make sure that supply is not going to be a massive issue. Like my grandfather, who's up there with my little sister, Katie. Miss, I love you guys. I hope to see you soon one day. But my grandfather used to always tell me, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. And so I would say that your most important investment is your house or your apartment. And it took me until my 30s before I could afford my first one when I lived in New York City. But think of all the money we're wasting on rent otherwise. Buy as soon as you can. And I can talk about that in more detail later. But it's always my dream that all of my clients, all my students, all of you, whether you're paying clients or not, I don't care, you make way more money from your investments in real estate. And what I mean by that is, and this is one of my real estate courses for my clients, only available on my website. But what I mean by that is you make more money from your resident investment rentals than you do from your primary salary, your source of income. And the way this works is this is one of the houses I own. This works in every country. You enter in the address of the house, you answer tons of questions here, yada, yada, whatever, and it all feeds into an executive summary and a business plan. Failing to plan is plan to fail. Okay. Let me go back to Wirecast. Here we go. All right. All right, let's do this. All right, let me change the lighting a bit and the mood. Okay, so next question I've got here is entertainment tip. The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. It's hilarious. Yeah, I watched that movie. I absolutely love it, especially the scene where he's dating the most incredibly gorgeous woman. Will Ferrell, that is, Eva Mendes. And Mark Wahlberg is like, seriously, is that your wife? Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Okay. All right. Next question I've got here. Can you react to Dumb Money movie? Absolutely. I love that movie. It's with the priest from There Will Be Blood. I drink your milkshake. And it's about GameStop. Yeah, I'll do that one too. I enjoyed that actually. Yeah. All right. Do you think it's better to pitch smaller boutique firms that Goldman or JPMorgan for just experience for a year or two? Or is that a dumb decision? Yeah, I mean, get in the traffic, get the experience. So my son, who works for he's just finishing up Berkeley. He works for a tier 1 investment bank. What he did was he did a free internship during the evenings at a firm that nobody has heard of. That's an investment bank. Yeah. And a lot of my clients that want to switch into finance, I have them do that too, especially younger clients. You do a free internship during the evenings, and then we go all out, and I help you get a job. I have had clients that got jobs at Goldman, et cetera. And don't feel that you have to go to a target school to get into a place like that either. Okay, let me change the mood a bit here. Okay. All right. Next question is from Pulasti. How are you? Who wrote, hey, Chris, what is your go-to AI tool? What is the best AI tool for a financial thing to search? Yeah, so for me, it's ChatGPT Deep Research, always. I'm just comfortable with it. I've used all of them, but that is just the one I feel most comfortable with. When it comes to doing investment research on stocks, it almost doesn't matter which one you use. The top three are all quite similar, but I'll show you what I do for my clients here. Okay, so I have a course, and this lighting is not working out that well, but whatever. I have a couple of courses. One is forensic financial statement analysis using AI, and the other one down here is ChatGPT for investing in stocks. And as always, I have plenty of templates for my clients to use. I'm an Excel nerd. I love this stuff. So what you do is you enter in the name of the company, okay? And then you're going to select your AI prompt level. And then you answer tons and tons of questions. I give you all the AI prompts, and then you get a one-page executive summary you can print out or a detailed write-up. And one of my clients actually, he used this, and he's now doing second-round interview with the CIO of Fidelity. Yeah. Okay, let me go here. Let me get rid of this ridiculous lighting here. Okay. Okay. And Ernesto wrote, I thought BRICS would have hurt the US dollar. They're trying, but I mean, I don't think they're going to make a dent, to be honest. Yeah. Okay. Just my humble opinion. Okay, next up we got Matt. Hey, Matt. It's my son's name too, Matt. Matt or Matthew, and that's Hebrew for gift from God. I'm sure you know that. You're a gift from God. Are there any investment funds or hedge funds that invest in certain lobbying groups or tactics that are working to pass laws that, if passed, would benefit stocks in their portfolio? So I worked at a hedge fund called Kingdon Capital. I work for Mark Kingdon. He's a mensch. He's a great guy. I love him. And I remember it was 2003 or 2004. And I remember in the morning meeting, and we were at 57th and 7th Street. I remember that. 7th Avenue. I remember asking him, why is it that Eliot Spitzer and the United States government doesn't go after hedge funds? Like at that point in time, they're going after all the sell-side firms like Merrill Lynch, Henry Blodgett, et cetera. And he said at that point in time that he thought that it might be because of political donations. And then all of that started to change in 2009 when Obama became president. And he started going after hedge funds. Now, behind the scenes, I'm sure there are tons of political donations that are occurring. Happens all the time. Happens with mutual funds, too. If you think about it, why the fuck would anybody invest in mutual funds if the fees are way higher than ETFs? There's a lot of lobbyists for mutual funds, and also mutual funds companies spend a fortune on advertising those feel-good commercials. And also mutual funds have, long-dated relationship with HR departments for 401k, et cetera. Yeah. Okay. And if anybody else has other thoughts you want to share in this, by all means, please go ahead. Thank you. Okay. Did you ever trade the FX markets? I know you're a long-term investor. No, never. No. And I think that's, with love of my heart, it's a loser proposition, right? Because how do we know what the price of one currency is going to be relative to the other in the short run? We just don't know. I don't know what Putin's going to say next. I don't know what Trump's going to say next, or Netanyahu. I have no idea what's going to happen with Iran. And so if you start becoming short-term focused like that, you get, to quote Nassim Taleb, you get fooled by randomness. It's just too hard. And the only people that make money in the long run with FX, in my humble opinion, are the ones that somehow manipulate the market, or they all pile in, the hedge fund mafia piles in on trades. Let me give you an example. So George Soros, who sucked at picking stocks but was very good at macro, what he did was he got a bunch of hedge funds together and they shorted the British pound. Okay. And what he did was he forced the British pound, I could talk about it in more detail, to stop being fixed, a fixed rate, which it used to be, versus US dollar and a basket of European currencies before the EU. And he forced the Bank of England to float the US or the British pound, and he made $1 billion in one day. Now, a lot of other hedge funds, the hedge fund mafia, all piled on top of that trade as well. He did the same thing in Thailand by forcing the Thai baht to go from fixed to floating, and he made $1 billion in one day. Yeah, comes with manipulation. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Soros' politics, or much about him, to be honest. Okay. All right, Nassim wrote, would you recommend moving to Canada for work or business? It depends where from. Yeah, I think it's a great country. I lived there for, I guess, the first 20 years of my life or so. It's a great place to raise a family. It's safe. Healthcare is provided for. And I'm very proud to be from Canada originally. But I'm down in the U.S. Because I worked on Wall Street and also because I worked here in Silicon Valley in venture capital. Yeah. Okay. But one thing that does bother me about Canada, and I'm very proud to be Canadian, is that there's no term limits. There should be. In the United States, knock on wood, there's 8-year term limits. In Canada, you can be prime minister forever. So when I was a kid, Pierre Trudeau was prime minister for way too long. And then his idiot son, his son was prime minister for way too long as well. Yeah. Worst prime minister in Canadian history. But if we had term limits, we wouldn't have that issue. Yeah. Okay, she floated the idea of using the yuan as a reserve currency recently. This is the first time he pushed this idea subtly into the open world. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Look, the Chinese economy is slowing a lot. Okay, for a couple of reasons. Number one, aging population. Number two, massive real estate crisis there that people aren't talking about. So the Chinese economy, has been growing at close to 10% per year for many, many years. They're forecasting this year for that growth to be 4.5% to 5%. I wouldn't be surprised if it was only 2 or 3% given the price of oil. Yeah. All right. Anthropic published a study which showed that programmers are 75% more vulnerable to AI disruption and financial analysts are 60% more at risk. I'm at the intersection of both. Am I in a bad spot to make money? Yeah, programming, absolutely. Stay away from that. So there's two types of graduates that are seeing the highest unemployment from university right now. One is people that study anthropology for obvious reasons, and the other is computer science. Yeah, the world is changing fast. Don't become a programmer or developer, please. Yeah, when it comes to financial analysts, we are at risk. I still think that we're going to have people picking stocks longer term, because when you create a financial model and you're forecasting the future, you have to make a million different assumptions. Yeah. And I don't think AI can perfectly do that yet, but it is coming. And so for you, Manas, and I think you teach on Udemy is one of the places you teach on. What I recommend is setting up a community like I've done to the extent that, people learn from each other. I think what's going to happen with online education in general is that a lot of people are going to be switching over to using AI, which is happening now. Right, my business is still seeing accelerated growth. And the reason my business is seeing accelerated growth, humbly, is because I have a sense of community as well. And so I think a lot of people are going to be learning AI, learning online, not from online websites, but from AI. And then in a couple of years, they're going to get lonely. I know it sounds out there. And they're going to want a sense of connection and community. And that's where I've moved my market. And that's why I recommend you do as well. Yeah. As a young fella, should I start learning how to do plumbing? LOL. Yeah. No joke, but it's interesting because a lot of private equity firms, they're investing in anything that has nothing to do with AI. And so a buddy of mine, a couple months ago, he sold his plumbing company here in the Bay Area for about $40 million. Yeah. But blue collar work is safe for now. But at some point in 20 years, I think that all families are going to have just as many robots as they do cars. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. Yeah. And the price initially would be $20,000 to $30,000, which means car payments of, I don't know, $400 a year for 4 years after you put part down. Yeah. Yeah. The robots are coming. We live in interesting times, right? All right, next question is from Liked Carrie. Great to see you on the call. Hope you join us again. Is it better to buy a foreign stock that is in the United States Exchange, ADR, or outside the U.S. Exchange, Nintendo ADR or Nintendo Tokyo Stock Exchange? Yeah, 7974 or ticker NTDOY. Definitely buy on the local exchange if liquidity is an issue. Okay, so a lot of companies that are dual listed, they're really not that liquid. Right, so NTDOY, it's 5 letters. It's not really listed in America. It sort of is, but it's really not that liquid. So if liquidity is an issue, then invest in the main exchange. Yeah, there are some stocks where that's not the point. Like, for example, SAP, which trades on the Deutsche Börse, also trades in Germany. Same ticker on both, SAP. Yeah, it's an ADR, American Depository Receipt. Yeah, so if liquidity is not an issue, then whatever is most convenient for you. And the reason I showed this to you is I do a case study on Nintendo in one of my classes. Yeah. And I took my kids actually and my wife, we went to Nintendo World in Japan. And for those of you who haven't played this on the Switch 2, please do. Yeah. Masterpiece. I think Mario Galaxy 2 is going to be announced in about a month or two. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of movies, have you seen Other People's Money? 1991, Danny DeVito. I thought it was very good. Yeah, it's a great movie. So for those of you that want to learn about private equity, watch the movie Other People's Money. It's an oldie but a goodie with Danny DeVito. Yeah, and basically it's about taking an old copper company and breaking it up into pieces and selling it off and letting people go because the future is fiber optics. Yeah, I'll do a review on that one too. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people don't realize DeVito was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You young people think he's just in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah. Okay. Hyperborean wrote, do you think it's worth buying any crypto beside Bitcoin and Ethereum like Solana, or do you think most people are better off sticking only to Bitcoin and Ethereum? Always do your investment research first, please. Yeah. And I recommend only buying cryptos for the most part. Only buying cryptos where you can buy ETFs. And the reason I say that is because it's such a pain in the ass to use these cold storage wallets, right? And it's so hard to use them that you lose confidence right before you place your order, you cut it in half. But if you buy ETFs, you can get in and out quickly if it's a reputable company. So for example, back in 2004, the first ETF was created for gold, ticker GLD. This is fake, by the way, just like I'm a fake teacher. Yeah. Those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach gym class. Sort of, just kidding. Yeah, but once ticker GLD was created back in 2004, it became really easy for us to buy and sell gold quickly, and you knew it was real and it was liquid. That's what I would say. Now, when you're doing due diligence, and I pride this to my clients on cryptocurrencies, the problem is that there's no S1, meaning a document created by investment bankers. So what I do, and I teach my clients to do, is I help you to create your own S1 as well. So I ask you 49 steps, right? So, San Francisco 49ers Gold Rush. 49 steps to do research on a crypto, and then you can just print out a report. But this is not perfect, right? Yeah. And the fact that the sector is not regulated by the SEC, okay, is another reason to never have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in them. Remember, most cryptos are a scam. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I'll let you decide which ones to invest in. Yeah. Chris, what do you think about the insurance industry for investing? Yeah. Yeah. So what I would do if you want is look at Berkshire Hathaway. So usually about 28 to 30% of Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio is in insurance companies. Do research on those companies as a starting point. Yeah. But it doesn't matter what stocks you invest in. After you create your research report, remember, you can't have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in any one stock and no more than 20% in any one particular sector. Yeah. And make sure you understand the impact of interest rates on the financial services company you're investing in. Yeah. Okay. Have you read the book When McKinsey Comes to Town? I found it fascinating how much reach one consulting company that many people never heard of can have. Yeah, McKinsey is the most powerful company on the planet. Yeah. So Mark Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, I overlapped with him at Goldman, good guy. I think he might have worked at McKinsey for a while as well as Lou Gerstner, who is the CEO of IBM. The who's who in government worked at McKinsey. Yeah. A lot of people started their careers in great consulting firms. Like I think the second best consulting firm is the Boston Consulting Group. And Benjamin Netanyahu started his career there after finishing MIT here in the United States. Yeah. And the great thing about working in consulting, and I worked for Accenture for 4 years before I came to Wall Street. Accenture, just kidding. But the great thing about working in consulting initially is that, similar to what I mentioned earlier on today's webcast, it's similar to investment banking in that it's an origination job. So if you're confused what you want to do with your life, you start off in an origination role. So in investment banking, you originate the IPO prospectus. In consulting, you originate the corporate strategy. If you hate corporate strategy or if you hate investment banking, that's okay because you know how to originate that product and you can always move on to sell that product or manage people in that product or start your own company doing that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's interesting because one of my kids, he did investment banking, and he actually, I just set him up with 5 to 10 interviews with people that I know that work at McKinsey. Yeah, yeah. It's funny you mention that. Okay. Okay, but one thing I'll say about McKinsey is it's so powerful of a company that it's never really gotten into trouble. Like Arthur Andersen and McKinsey advised Enron, which went belly up. And as a result, Arthur Andersen was forced into bankruptcy, but not McKinsey. And McKinsey's a little bit different from other consulting firms. And I'm not saying they gave bad advice with their, I mean, they're not perfect, but they're pretty damn good. But the way that McKinsey works is this. They don't do implementation, right? They study your company for like 6 months. They look at data and stuff. And then what they do is they give you a report and say, do this. Then they leave. Yeah. Okay. Chris, what do you think about gold price and why is price increasing significantly? It's a flight to quality. It's a flight to quality. And also, if you think about it, so, you know, five years ago, the biggest owner of U.S. treasuries was actually the Chinese government. China's been selling a lot. Now it's Japan that owns 2.7% of U.S. debt. So if China is buying less U.S., what are they going to buy that's relatively low risk? Euros? No. What are they going to buy? Number one, gold. And number two, longer term, maybe digital gold, which is Bitcoin. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't recommend buying gold right now because everybody owns it and it's near an all-time high. You always want to buy when everyone's freaking out. Because if you buy the same investment class that everybody already owns, there's not that many incremental investors to push it higher. And I have to quote Wayne Gretzky because I love him. I grew up loving the guy. He said humbly, the reason he was successful is not because he skates where the puck is, but rather he skates where the puck is going to be. And I want you all to think the same way. I want you to invest in stocks and assets that people are going to like. Yeah, and be a contrarian and watch your net worth take off. Yeah, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. Everyone's freaking out. Okay. All right, next up. What is one of the best advice you've received and would have for men in their 20s now who don't believe in marriage or commitment long-term for economic or some other reason? Wow. I mean, I think that we're all on this earth to have kids. And let me tell you this from a parent. I've got three boys. Usually people have two kids, have a boy and a girl, and they're done. Okay. And I told my wife, should we have a fourth? She's like, you fucking crazy? Yeah. But you won't realize true happiness in life until you hold your child for the first time. You'll see. Yeah. And it gives you a sense of purpose, too. What are we here for, eh? Yeah. Okay. Is the future of NFTs worth it? They're so out of favor now that I'm starting to like them. Okay. I think so. And so I'll give you an example. So growing up for me, I collected baseball cards, and I still do because I'm a man-child, right? I might have the biggest collection of Toronto Blue Jays PSA 10 baseball cards on the planet. Yeah. And this is Otani, right? PSA 10. Now, it doesn't matter what asset class you invest in. You have to look at supply. And some of the best investments you can make are cards where supply is low but demand is high. Now, the younger generation, like my kids, they didn't have as many physical toys growing up. It was just digital for them. And they're the next investors. And so I think that baseball card or sports card, even Pokemon cards, I don't know anything about it, but those types of markets could do extraordinarily well in the long run. But you got to think about it this way. You have to analyze supply and only buy from reputable companies like Topps, for example. Okay, you got to look at supply closely. And the best way to explain it is as follows: NFTs. Okay, you ever see a painting on the wall, and it's not an original, but it's a print. In the bottom right-hand corner, it says number 46 out of 300. That's how you have to think about NFTs. There's got to be a limited print, okay? A limited print set, but I think those could be great investments longer term. And it's so out of favor right now, which is why I like it. When everybody starts talking about it and there's a bubble, then I'll back off. Yeah. And this here is an extreme example, but this here is the T206, okay, the Honus Wagner card. If this was real, this would be worth about close to $10 million, right? Why? Because supply was low. Last thing I have to say is this. Okay. Baseball cards were created by the cigarette companies. And the reason is because in the old days, you know, and I don't smoke except when I'm on fire. Sorry. But in the old days, cigarette packs were soft. And so if they put a baseball card in, it would stop the cigarettes from bending. That's what a cigarette looks like bending. Yeah. I guess cigarettes were smaller back then too. I don't know. Yeah. And if you ever meet me in real life, I'm a tiny man with the worst dad humor. Okay. All right, next question is, do you think tariffs are gone as the Supreme Court pulled out the plug on that? Now, I think Trump will find a way. I do. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it broke his heart because one of the Supreme Court justices he put in place didn't vote for him. Yeah. But I think tariffs can help longer term. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Indian stocks are having another tough year. The Sensex is down to 76,000 from 86,000, but still super expensive. In my opinion, a big chunk is IT stocks like Wipro and Infosys. You think they're going to take a big hit? Yeah. Yeah. They're certainly out of favor. I don't know. The way I look at it is from an IT services perspective. Is Accenture going to be more relevant or less relevant in 5 years, for example? Potentially less relevant because of AI. And so McKinsey let go about 10% of their workforce. And consulting firms are getting hit very hard because a lot of people are going directly to AI products to ask for consulting help. Yeah. Okay. But India has so many great companies too. Like, you know, it's so diverse, like Crompton and Greaves, you know, Tata Motor, except there's so many great companies there. Yeah, it's not just IT services. Yeah, and I'm a bull on India longer term, very bullish. You know, world's biggest democracy, world's biggest country, America's best friend, I think. Yeah, I love it. Okay, next question is, do you think the stock market is inefficient or efficient? I think it's highly inefficient. Otherwise, stocks would all be priced to perfection and all the positive news would be priced in, and you could never generate alpha or a positive return. You wouldn't beat the market. Yeah. Yeah. And be careful with, I think what you're referring to is the efficient market hypothesis, efficiency frontier. Be careful of theoretical bullshit when it comes to education, business education. For example, supply and demand graphs, right? Completely separate here, but nobody uses that crap in the real world. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're an economist. Okay. Okay. Next question. Do you think most autocracies fall eventually, whether they're democratic or not? I don't know, man. I mean, democracy is, kind of pioneered by the Greek, demos kratos. America's only a couple hundred years old. Yeah, so I don't know. But I do think that the American political system works best. There's a lot of problems in America, but the way I look at America is as follows. Hundreds of years ago, a bunch of people came over from Europe, and they took greatest hits of what works in Europe, and they created it in America, meaning term limits, checks and balances, etc. More power to the states than federal. Yeah, there's enough checks and balances in place in America to keep everything in check. Yeah, as you've seen with the Supreme Court with tariffs. Yeah, it's not a perfect system, but I think it's pretty damn close. What's your best advice to make a niche business such as fitness on social media? Yeah, always write a thorough business plan. And it's a cliche, but failing to plan is plan to fail. And I have a venture capital boot camp that I walk my clients through. What you do is you work with me and I help you write the entire business plan. Okay. You compare yourself to the competitive environment, marketing strategy, all that crap. And then financials is the most important part. And a lot of people, they kind of write a business plan just looking at qualitative stuff. But you got to look at the numbers. Otherwise, you have a thesis and not an opinion. And what comes out of this is your final business plan as well as presentation slides as part of my venture capital bootcamp. And this is based on what I used to teach at universities, including the Stanford Graduate School of Business. So I mentored a lot of Stanford MBA students as part of their curriculum. I was a guest speaker there. So I have a venture capital boot camp. Yeah. Yeah. I love teaching with props. And if anybody's interested in learning more, there's a link. You can just go to that link there and whatever. Okay. All right. Give me a second here. Pulaski wrote, "Have a great day, Mr. Dunphy." I am Phil. Okay. When Modern Family was on, everybody, Phil right here. Yeah. Phil Dunphy. Yeah. Yeah. Who likes Gloria? Yeah. Do you think the new Ayatollah is more dangerous than the old man before he's 56? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he lost his wife and a lot of relatives. Yeah. Apparently he's injured. I think a U.S. strike hit him, or Israeli strike, and his leg is badly injured. We haven't seen him speak yet. Yeah. I just pray for peace, man. Okay. Great question on consulting firms. Do you think 10 years from now they'll be more or less relevant because of AI? Less. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manasro. India is facing an LPG oil crisis now. Been 12 days of the war. One of the biggest weaknesses in India is lack of oil. Yeah. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest economies in the world are releasing record amounts of strategic oil reserves. I think we could get close to 150. Iran says that they want to drive the price of oil to 200, which means 150. Yeah, it'll get worse before it gets better. Yeah, but I do think this is temporary. Yeah. Okay. And I think if Iran had nukes, they would use them. Yeah. Okay. It's so interesting, though, because you look at North Korea, and nobody will ever invade North Korea because they have that weapon. Yeah. Is there any way a new hedge fund can get ISDA? I don't know what ISDA is. If you want, you can let me know what that is. Thanks. Okay. All right. Senyam wrote, Chris, what is your thesis on gold, silver, and Bitcoin for the rest of the year? I don't know. I never know, and nobody knows. Anybody tells you otherwise is full of it. I think longer term. I'm bullish on all three of those assets in the long run. You know, if the economy is shit to bed, gold will do better than silver because silver has a lot of industrial applications too. Bitcoin is very volatile. The beta is quite high relative to the S&P 500. If the markets get hit, it will as well. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't care if Bitcoin is 40,000 next year or 200,000 next year. It doesn't matter to me. Because I know in 20 years, or I think at least, that it's going to be $1 million per coin. Yeah. The longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah. Okay. What was your main driver to move out from Wall Street, Chris? Yeah. So it's interesting. So I retired just over 10 years ago. What I did was I introduced Tony Robbins, who's a good guy, by the way. He changed my life, that guy. But I introduced Tony Robbins to one of my portfolio companies in venture capital, and he convinced me to do this. Yeah. And for me, it was interesting because it's not money that motivates me. It's helping people, making a difference. We're here to serve others. But when I worked at other companies, it was always very uncomfortable for my boss every annual review season because they would say something like this every year. Chris, you're doing a great job. You're a top producer. Everyone loves working with you, but can you spend a little bit less time helping people in different departments? And it's just who I am. I love doing it. I love helping people, and I won awards for this over the years too. So it breaks my heart. I dropped this. I broke it. But this was for when I was at Accenture, Outstanding Canadian Mentor. Yeah, I got this. Whoops, I think it's like this. Yeah, it's a Canadian thing. Yeah, it's cool. But I don't know. For me, I derive joy from helping. That's it. Yeah. And I really believe that if you chase money, you lose your money and your dreams. But if you chase your dreams and you don't give a damn what anybody thinks of you, something incredible happens. Your dreams come true and the money follows accidentally. It always does. And don't be afraid of failure, please. As Michael Jordan said, I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. So take the risk, guys. Because you only have to be right in business one time. Yeah. Okay. And when I first got this light here, what I tried to do is I tried to mimic. Remember those old Apple commercials? Doesn't look as good though. Yeah. I've got pedals. Look mono hands with this. Anyway, I'm a nerd. Okay. Aizen wrote, if even the U.S. stops the war, Israel will still continue to attack. I don't think it's going to go on forever. I think at some point, Iran's weapons will be depleted. What we don't know is what we don't know, meaning the thousands of drones they have underground. And these drones are cheap to make, too. They're only $50,000 each versus these missiles America creates, which is $3.5 million each. Yeah. But I'm glad Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. Yeah. Okay. All right, next question is, Chris, what happened to Web 3.0? And what about blockchain applications? Yeah, blockchain applications will continue. It's distributed computing, which has been around for forever. It's just got a different name, sort of. Yeah. But when it comes to Web 3.0, so for those who are not familiar with that, Web 1.0 was static internet, just simple brochure or web pages in the 90s. Web 2.0 was kind of more dynamic stuff with apps, around 05. Web 3.0 is VR stuff, right? And Facebook renamed themselves as Meta for a couple reasons. Number one, to focus on the metaverse. And number two, more importantly, because they know it's just a matter of time until they get broken up by the Department of Justice into separate companies. So the parent company is Meta, and the companies that will get broken up at some point once geopolitical things subside. The companies will get broken up to include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and other. Yeah. But problem with the metaverse is that it's very expensive to sell these things, right? I mean, Apple tried, and it was the biggest loser product they've released since Lisa, right? I mean, I got the Apple, Vision Pro. It's been collecting dust. I should probably just sell it on eBay. It's a depreciating asset. Yeah. And the problem is that it's too expensive, clunky to put these things on. And this sounds weird, but you get lonely in there. It's kind of, I don't know, for anybody that's ever tried it, like it's cool for a bit. You get lonely. It kind of hurts your eyes. It's not perfect. Anyway. Okay. Okay. Is there any way a hedge fund can get international swaps and derivatives association? I still don't understand the question, but a lot of hedge funds do use swaps and derivatives. Yeah, they already do. So derivatives, for those of you not familiar with it, the global derivatives market is 6 times bigger than the global stock market. It's massive. And remember from calculus class, derivatives means the rate of change. That's all you got to remember from calculus. You're good. And so under the derivatives umbrella includes options, like puts and calls on stocks. Swaps, which means swapping risk, okay, for like interest rates. You've got futures and forwards, right? So betting on the future price of oil. And the futures market was so crazy for oil that the price of oil went to negative $40 in Q1 of 2020. How crazy is that? And people were justifying it, saying, well, of course it has to be negative because nobody's buying oil during COVID, and these tankers that are afloat in the Baltic Sea cost $600,000 a day just to stay afloat. Yeah. Yeah. Those were irrational times, and that's when you buy. Yeah. Is there a seminar or a networking event where you have investors wanting to deploy capital to new fund managers? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's what you can do is if you deal with a prime brokerage firm, which is like your broker for a hedge fund, like a Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, et cetera, they have a team called Cap Intro or Capital Introduction, right? And they take you on a road show and help you to raise capital. It's usually not that effective. Yeah. But if you're starting your own hedge fund or investment firm, just talk to high net worth investors initially because the sales cycle is quite short. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this call. I'll see you guys all next week. For those in my premium services, I'll see you later today at 10 a.m. for our daily Zoom call. I do daily Zoom calls with my clients, group Zoom, one-on-ones, etc. All right, guys, pray for peace. God bless you, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. And I'm going to end this call like I always do with a very short video. It's going to change your life. It's an interview I licensed it's a Steve Jobs interview I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. Thank you. Pray for peace. God bless you guys. I love you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.